Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, you're joining us as we explore the captivating artistic universe of Bob Camblin.
That's right.
We've got quite a collection here, his quotes, his biography, bits from books about his art, and even a YouTube discussion on one of his paintings.
Mhm.
Our mission really is to sort of unpack all this, get to the core of Camblin's art philosophy, his life,
hmm
maybe uncover some of those insights and, well, paradoxes he seemed to embrace.
It's a really interesting mix of sources, isn't it? Gives you different angles. You
Yeah.
get his own words, which can be quite enigmatic sometimes.
Def-
And the biography gives you the timeline, the facts,
Right.
and then these critical views like through Zen or the I Ching
Mhm.
and that specific painting analysis. It's a lot to dig into.
Absolutely. And, if you've ever thought about how art and life connect, or that line between what we see and what we don't,
Mhm.
or like balancing logic and intuition, Camblin's work really offers a pretty unique, sometimes unconventional look at all that.
It certainly does.
Okay, so maybe the best place to start is his core philosophy. This idea of embracing paradox seems central.
Right. He doesn't seem to be looking for simple answers. It's more about the interplay, the tension between opposites. And this perfectly average idea is key there.
Yeah, what's that about exactly? He says he wants to stick with common sense and this perfectly average view. Sounds almost underwhelming at first.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it's about being mediocre. It's more like finding a stable, grounded viewpoint.
Okay.
From there, he seems to suggest you can actually appreciate the extremes, the miracles, as he calls them, on both sides, science and magic.
Ah, so it's a launch pad, not a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's interested in that fuzzy area, the smear between the whiteness and the blackness, finding the amazing by starting with the ordinary. He kind of flips the script on artists always chasing the totally exceptional, doesn't it?
It really does. He even talks about hoping to see science and magic meet in this like intensely bright gray. Such a cool image.
Hmm. It really captures that space of possibility where things we think are opposed might actually coexist.
And it ties into his idea of the sixth sense, right? Which he says is without a doubt.
Yeah, it's presented almost like a certainty, not
Yeah.
some vague mystical thing, like a deep intuition or knowing that's just there, beyond pure logic.
Right. And that quote connects it all. Look into the atom, you get what you need. Look into magic, and you get what you need. Philosophy and art are in both.
Exactly. He sees it all as interconnected. Physics, metaphysics, art. It's all part of the same search for understanding. He's really blurring those lines we usually draw.
Okay, so moving on, the sources also talk about this shift. He seems to move away from art for art's sake.
Right towards something much more essential, like art for life's sake, or art for my sake, or art for survival's sake.
That feels like a really significant change. Like art isn't just decoration anymore.
No, it becomes fundamental. You wonder what might have prompted that. Maybe his experiences in the Korean War, facing those stark realities.
Could be. Or maybe later, when he was living that nomadic life and art was literally how he survived.
Possibly. It definitely suggests art became less of a detached aesthetic thing and more deeply woven into just living, navigating the world, surviving it even.
And he says it point blank, art is not just images, which implies, well, something bigger.
Yeah, maybe more experiential or spiritual even.
Then there's that quote, find something in nature that completes you and then surrender. It feels very direct, almost like instructions.
It does. Like a recipe for finding that connection he's talking about.
That's-
Surrendering to something bigger than yourself found in nature.
So for anyone listening, maybe think about that. What in nature might complete you? Or where do you find that sense of surrender in your own creative urges?
Mm-hmm. And there's that Suzuki quote in the materials too about art expressing the whole personality, sensibility, and ability.
Right.
It fits perfectly, doesn't it? Art isn't just a surface thing. It's coming from your whole being, your experiences, your connection to the world, especially nature, or Camblin.
Now, another theme that keeps popping up is impermanence, change, but also stillness.
Yeah, there's some really poignant quotes about that, like, fortunately, some things remain forever, or another 10 years, perhaps.
Ah, yeah. That mix of hope
Yeah,
and realism.
exactly. And that one about aging, where the memory of songs stops when you see the decay.
Oh, that's quite melancholic. Sad how we all aged at that moment in time.
It really captures that fleeting quality of things, doesn't it? How time affects not just objects, but our inner world, our memories.
But then contrasting that, there's the still pawn.
Right, the one reached after the mind ripped out in flashes of variations.
So it's not about stopping the mind, but maybe moving through all that activity.
Seems like it. Journeying through the chaos to find quiet.
Yeah.
And he also mentions balancing and being for and against. Again, accepting that duality, that constant flux.
Which brings us nicely to that painting, Anonymous Flowers.
Yes, that gets quite a bit of attention in the sources.
It does. Both the Zen and the Art Enlightenment book and that YouTube video, Suspension of Growth and Stillness, really dive into it. The image itself, lush greenery suspended in midair, defying gravity.
That's the hook, isn't it? The familiar plants, soil but floating. The book links it straight to Zen, nature symbolizing impermanence.
And the floating means detachment.
Yeah, detachment from worldly concerns, hovering freely, unbound, as they put it, like life flourishing even without the usual grounding. And that connects to Mio, emptiness, and Zen.
But not emptiness is nothingness, right?
Exactly. More like potential, a fertile space, which the YouTube video picks up on too, calling it paradoxical vitality, life thriving even while suspended. The lack of roots challenges our whole idea of stability.
Then they bring in the I Ching. Hexagram 11, peace, harmony between heaven and earth.
Right. The painting scene is this ideal balance suspended between sky and earth. And the I Ching is all about change. So the floating fits with that fluidity, growth happening without rigid structures.
The YouTube analysis also mentions hexagram 16, enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm. The power of inspiration, energy coming from unseen forces. The floating plants as momentum built on, well, something invisible. It's amazing how these different philosophies kind of converge on the painting.
It really is. Zen's fertile space, the I Ching's power within change, and they even mention surrealism.
Yeah, like Magritte or Dali, putting normal things in weird places to shake up our perception. The book also notes how the style bridges things, romantic lushness, impressionistic light. It's multi-layered.
And the YouTube video adds shikantaza, just sitting, being present. Like the painting itself invites mindfulness.
And the Tao Te Ching connection too.
Right. The Tao is empty, yet it gives birth to infinite worlds. The floating plants is spontaneous growth from the void.
That idea of emptiness as openness, as potential, is really central. The painting becomes this symbol for, well, for thriving without obvious anchors, embracing uncertainty.
Okay, so thinking about Camblin as an artist, he called himself a free agent.
Yeah, not committed except by desire. That sounds pretty independent.
Definitely. And it seems to track with his life choices, right? Like leaving his teaching job to become nomadic.
Absolutely. It suggests he was driven more by his own internal compass than, say, career structures or market demands. A real commitment to autonomy. It fits with what we hear about his unease with the commercial side of art.
He also mentioned wanting a participatory type of art. What do you think he meant by that?
Maybe that the viewer isn't just passive, that they have an active role in creating the meaning.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially with paintings like Anonymous Flowers that seem so open to interpretation, like he's setting up a dialogue.
A silent one, maybe, between the art and the person looking at it.
But then there's his distrust of words about art. He mentions Tom Wolfe's The Painted Word,
Right.
yet he uses text in his own drawings sometimes. Seems a bit contradictory.
It does, doesn't it? Maybe he felt words could never fully capture the art experience, but they could still be part of the visual, like clues or just shapes, adding another layer without locking down the meaning.
And a key goal for him seemed to be evoking the otherworldly, questioning reality.
Definitely connect to those surreal elements, yeah. And wanting to remake Goya in 20th century terms, that's ambitious.
Seriously, what do you think that means? Like tackling big, dark themes like Goya did, but with a modern sensibility?
I think so. Goya didn't shy away from the harsh realities, war, the dark side of human nature. Maybe Camblin wanted that same kind of deep, visceral engagement, but reflecting 20th century anxieties, psychology, that kind of thing.
And finally, he liked keeping some mystery in art, comparing it to a game.
Yeah, the game analogy is interesting. It suggests engaging with art should be like simulating, maybe a bit puzzling. There's a reward in figuring things out, peeling back the layers. It's not just about a quick look.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit to his actual life journey. Born in Oklahoma in 1928, parents were artists.
Right, so art was there from the very beginning. That must have shaped him profoundly. Being the high school yearbook art director, too, shows early talent and interest in visual communication.
And his context in Ponca City, the Marland Estate, that big oil mansion, the Pioneer Woman statue, Apparently his mother posed for preliminary sketches for it.
Wow, really? That's a direct personal link.
Yeah. And even The Wizard of Oz being a big influence. It's this mix of local history, personal ties, pop culture.
It really shows how artists soak everything up, doesn't it? The grand estate, the iconic statue, a fantasy film. It all feeds into their perspective. Wizard of Oz, maybe that sparked his interest in the fantastical, the otherworldly.
Could be. And his long friendship with Forrest Harrisberger, another artist, starting way back.
Having that kind of peer support, someone to bounce ideas off, especially early on, that can be so crucial for an artist's development.
Then came the Korean War and sketching the California coast. Big changes in scenery and experience.
Yeah, war and travel often leave a huge mark. The harshness of war, the beauty of a new landscape. It broadens your view, maybe makes you think about life and fragility differently.
After the war, he got that Fulbright to Italy. That seems huge.
Oh, absolutely. Italy's art heritage. Transformative for many artists. He was apparently taken with the old masters, Impressionism.
And specifically the Uffizi Gallery and those catacombs in Palermo. The mummies, he called them.
Right. It's that contrast again, isn't it? The beauty of the Renaissance masters and the stark reality of death in the catacombs. The ideal and the real, maybe. Beauty and decay. He said those mummy images might never leave him.
Wow, depth impact. And Botticelli, too, connecting Birth of Venus to KPFT radio somehow.
Yeah, that's intriguing. Shows his mind making these unusual links between high art and local culture. And his take on flora from Primavera, hiding images in it. He's weaving it all together.
Then the teaching career, followed by that big break in '76, leaving academia, becoming nomadic, living off his art.
That's a massive leap of faith, isn't it? Really living that free agent idea and traveling the world would just pour more influences into his work. It shows art wasn't just his job, it was his life.
He also collaborated a lot, didn't he? B&E Productions with Earl Staley and Joe Tate.
And signing things anonymous or anonymous artists.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, it kind of pushes back against the idea of the lone genius artist, doesn't it? Emphasizes the collective, the shared creation, and later developing Muches Volantes with Nancy Giordano, those optical illusions, shows he was always experimenting.
Always exploring. Then later, Oregon, Louisiana, becoming more reclusive.
Maybe a retreat from the art game, as the sources call it. He seemed to have complex feelings about the art world, even strong ideas about how exhibitions should be run.
Yeah, wanting the artist's whole environment shown, minimizing interference, wanting a pure encounter between the art and the viewer.
Makes sense. More authentic, less mediated.
And those recurring motifs, the jars of water, turning a stumbling block into a stepping stone.
Right, symbolizing transformation. And the scarecrows inspired by Gunter Grass, about renewal and metamorphosis. These symbols give us little windows into his thinking, the themes he kept returning to.
So lastly, those critical perspectives kind of round things out. Charlotte Moser seeing his drawing style change.
Eleanor Freed focusing on life cycles, metamorphosis. Tex's overview on his mix of drawing and watercolor.
Pete Gershon's great line, a mystical trickster figure ripe for rediscovery.
That really captures something, doesn't it? And Earl Staley talking about learning from him, their collaboration. Penny Serling on his questioning nature. Carolyn Farb seeing the work as autobiographical.
It's a whole chorus of voices adding layers to our understanding. They seem to reinforce the themes we've been discussing: change, collaboration, that enigmatic quality.
Yeah, the mystical trickster feels pretty spot on. Deep ideas, but maybe with a playful, subversive edge.
So wrapping this up, it feels like Bob Camblin was all about embracing paradox, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The connection between art and life, accepting impermanence, the power of how we see things, that seems to be the core.
He wasn't afraid of those gray areas, the uncertainties. He kind of invites us into that space, too, to question things.
He really does. His legacy isn't just the paintings, it's the challenge he presents to think differently about art, about life, about where they meet. Pushing boundaries, always looking deeper.
Which leads us to a final thought for everyone listening. Think about the gray areas in your own life, where logic meets intuition, where the seen bumps up against the unseen. Could embracing some of that uncertainty, looking beyond the obvious, actually open up new ways of seeing things, like Camblin's art encourages?
Yeah, and what about your own anchors? Things you rely on for stability. Might reevaluating some of them allow for unexpected growth? A different understanding of reality as it shifts around us.
Definitely something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art and philosophy of Bob Camblin.